CloudDB, shaping your new normal.
Hello APAC, and welcome to the Oracle Groundbreakers APAC Virtual Tour 2021. My name is Heli Helskyaho. People know me as Heli from Finland. And today we talk about tracking COVID-19 exposures in Finland using Oracle technology. So first, very briefly about myself. So my name is Heli, and I have graduated from the University of Helsinki with a master's degree in computer science, and I'm currently working on my doctoral studies, and I do some research and some lecturing at the same university, University of Helsinki. I've been working with Oracle products since 1993, and I have been on IT for quite many years. Data and databases is close to my heart and something that I really find interesting on IT. I'm a CIO for Oracle Finland, Oracle ACE Director and Oracle Groundbreaker Ambassador. I have been listed as one of the top 100 influencers on IT sector in Finland for quite many years, and I'm very happy and proud of this. I'm a public speaker. I speak in more than 20 events every year and also an author. So far I have written 3 books. The first one about database designing, the second one about SQL and PL SQL, and the latest book that came out this summer about machine learning. So today we talk about altistumiset.fi. So altistumiset is a Finnish word that means exposures. So this is a web page for anybody to go and check exposures in Finland, and to be specific, exposures for COVID-19 in Finland. This is an example of how it looks like. So this is one of the maps, a heat map about exposures in Finland. So the Finnish map, and in colors we can see what's the situation in different cities in Finland. So what is all this about? Well, this enables individuals to actively go and check if they have been exposed to COVID-19. So exposure means that it's possible that you have met the virus itself, but it doesn't mean that you have been infected. So exposure is not equal to infected. Exposed means that you have been in a place where somebody infected has also been about the same time. So this is a database of exposures, which is unique. At least in Finland, this is the only database I know that has data about exposures. The rest of the databases have data about infections, but not exposures. And also because of this unique data, we are able to do analysis that also use exposure data. And based on this analysis, we are able to make predictions for the future. This is one of the pages that we have there, one of the screens where you can go and check if you have been in a public place that has exposures. You can go and check your own city where you live, how it's going on. Or let's say you are planning to travel to Oulu and you want to see how is Oulu doing in the means of exposures or in the means of COVID situation, because exposures tells a lot about how this particular city is doing. So how did it all start? In the beginning, there were volunteers who had a blog and a Microsoft Excel sheet. They used the blog to publish the exposure data, and then they used the Excel sheet to be able to do the analysis and the predictions based on that data. I'm sure you can already imagine this was not the best possible combination for the data to be for the analysis. So having a blog, first of all, is not a very easy way of publishing data. I mean, this kind of data that you have plenty, of course, it's a good place for articles and so on, but not for this kind of data. And then copy pasting the same information, the same data to Excel definitely was not worth it. So this was a technical combination that was not going to last. It worked in the beginning when people were still full of energy to do it, and also when the number of exposures was not a lot. But COVID situation was getting worse, and that also meant that there were more data to be inserted in both Block and Excel. So one evening, very late in the evening, I got a Twitter message from an ex-colleague saying, "Do you know anybody who could help?" Because they needed to find another solution or to give up. This was not going to last. So I said, okay, let me sleep and I will think until the morning and get back to you. Well, it didn't take until the morning. I already woke up in the middle of the night and I realized I do know the solution. The problem here was, of course, that there was no money, and so we couldn't pay licenses. We couldn't buy any kind of hardware or software or anything. So it was kind of a strange situation. I need an IT system, 24/7 system that will support a lot of people. This was supporting a lot of people. Currently, we have hundreds of thousands of people every day visiting the web page. So that kind of technical solution without money, that was a big question. So anyway, I woke up in the middle of the night and I knew the solution, and the rest is history. So 10 working days later, to be precise, September 25th, 2020, we were in production with the first version of altistumiset.fi. So I think this proves that if you have if you really want to do something and you have the motivation for it, you can do it. So without money, we were able to go to production with quite a complicated application in 10 working days. So I think based on this, anything can be done. So who is working on this? We have people collecting and inserting data. So these are the volunteer workers who will go and check the media and all kind of data sources. They collect the data, they investigate the data, and if they think it's correct, if they are very convinced it's correct, they insert it to our database. So these are people who are professionals on knowing the subject area. They understand schools or restaurants or anything like that. They understand how it works, hospitals or whatever, and they are able to verify if the data is correct. Then we have people who analyze this data and make predictions for the future. So using different kind of data sources, including this one, they can make very good predictions about the future. Then, of course, us, the technical people who are building and maintaining the application. Actually, it's 2 applications, but I will talk about that a bit later. So all of us, we are volunteers. As I mentioned, there's no money, there's no budget, there's nothing. Volunteer people who are doing this to help their community. So no budget, just the will to help your community is what we have here. So what technology did we use? So I said that we had no money. So what came to my mind was that we need to use the Oracle free tier, because then we don't need money, because free tier is for free forever. And I don't know how long COVID will last. So any kind of 30-day trial would not work here. So it has to be there forever until COVID is gone. So Oracle free tier. By the way, today, thanks to Oracle, we have a paid account. Oracle was very kind to fund us that. So now we are even doing better than before. But anyway, what we did then was done on a free tier data, on a free tier Oracle Cloud. We have Autonomous Transaction Processing Database, ATP, Oracle Application Express, APEX, Oracle Database Spatial, and Oracle Maps Cloud Service for our maps. So we use Spatial and Map Service for the maps. Of course, we have also Load Balancer and ORTS. How was it built? So we have one database for all this data, but we have two applications. One application is for inserting and maintaining the data. This is strictly authenticated. So all these users have their own credentials to log in, and they have particular privileges. So we have two kind of users. We have the super users who are allowed to do almost anything. They are allowed to insert, delete, update, and so on. And they are able to see also and change also things that other people have been changing there. By the way, we also have journaling tables. So if you delete something, it's not actually deleted, it's been journalized to another table. But that's another story. So these people are allowed to do almost anything. Then we have other kind of users who are allowed to insert and see data, but they are only allowed to change the data that they have inserted themselves. So they are not allowed to change something that somebody else has inserted into the system. So this is the application we have, and it's called altistumiset.fi. So if you go to altistumiset.fi, this is what you see. You can change it to English from here, or you can go back to Finnish by clicking the same button here. What it tells us first here is terms of use, so you can go and check the terms of use. We want to be sure that this data is not used for wrong purposes, so we have strict rules for data usage. You can see when COVID started in Finland. It's been quite long already. And then you can see an overview based on the postal codes or the zip codes, how COVID is in Finland now, shown by a heat map. So the red here indicates the areas that have most of the cases. Then you will also see exposures yesterday, previous 7 days, previous 30 days, and during this system has been up and running. And the same about infections. So yesterday, previous 7 days, previous 30 days, and since COVID started. Then you can see the exposures during the last 60 days. So you can see what are the days with more or less exposures. And the same per month. We can see here that the biggest month has been August 21 and then July 21. While as exposures, the biggest one has been August and March. So the idea of this page is that you will get an overview of what's going on in Finland now. So it's an overview page. You will find it from current situation here if you want to go and check it later. So the whole thing started with actually school exposures, and that's why we have a special web page here for school exposures at schools and universities. So this one, because the schools were opened in August again, we have a special counter here, exposures at schools since August 1st, 21, and comprehensive schools, which actually tells that comprehensive schools have quite a lot of the exposures that we have in schools. Then exposure events all, previous 30 days, previous 7 days, and yesterday. Here you can see school exposures, the city or the municipality, what kind of school, do we know about the location, some kind of details about what happened. Unfortunately, this is now only in Finnish. When was it published? Do we have a URL to this event? Was it a special variant of the virus? And then a technical ID if people want to contact us about a particular case they know more about. The idea here is that you can go and search something particular, like I want to see schools in Helsinki area. and maybe I want to filter just this school and so on. So people can go and detailed see a particular school or particular area. Then we also have splits. So we have split by school from day one. So when we started with the system, so it shows that comprehensive schools are so much, upper secondary schools, and then we have some universities or other learning institutions. And now it's stacked, or you can unstack it if you prefer seeing it like this, depending how you prefer. Then you can also see the schools and universities by healthcare district. So we have here different healthcare districts we have in Finland, and then we have a number of cases in each of these area. This one is the capital area, and that's why it is the highest. You can also change it horizontal or vertical by clicking here. And if you want to remove some of these, you can do it from here. Let's say I don't want to see universities, or I don't want to see any comprehensive schools. So there's a lot of ways you can fine tune whatever you see here. There's also exposure events at schools by municipality city like this, and you can just, let's say I deselect Helsinki and Jyväskylä and so on. And again, you can see it vertically or horizontally, depending how you prefer to see it. This one shows the split by type of school. So as we can see here immediately, comprehensive schools are the biggest. So in the presentation, I already showed you where you hear. So where you hear, here we don't publish all the exposures. We only publish those that might be a place you have been. So kind of public places. So hospitals, restaurants, all these kind of things. So when our volunteers insert data to the database, they decide if it's shown on this web page or not. So they decide if it's something that people might want to see in where you hear. Like for example, I want to see the capital healthcare district, and I want to see Helsinki, and I want to see restaurants. I want to go and check if there's any restaurant that I have been visiting. Let's say I have been there in this particular day, and I have been on the Rocks bar. There's the news about it. It's been published on the 14th. It has happened on the 9th. And here you can read more information, what really happened. Was there a particular time or particular place in that restaurant or what? So I can go and check if I have been in a place where I might have been exposed to COVID. Total exposures has information about all the exposures, not just those where you hear exposures. Again, we have all exposure events, previous 30 days, 7 days, and yesterday. And again, I can go and check what area I'm interested in. And maybe I want to have, and maybe even travel. And then I can see what has happened in that particular area. Then I can also see new cases per month. So I can see the previous month compared to the current month. I can see a top level view. So obviously it looks like restaurants, cafes and pubs seem to be the biggest one now, but comprehensive schools are quite close to it. So this kind of gives me the idea where most of the exposures happen. And here you can see the similar thing in different kind of diagram. this is the last 14 days, the same kind of information. One very interesting thing here is maps. So we have different kind of maps because picture tells much more than words or Excel sheets. So we have different kind of maps. We have two kind of maps. We have a location maps and we have heat maps. The exposure location shows the exact location of an event. The number here says that in this event there's 29 cases during the period I have selected here. I can change the times and search with different criteria. Then we have this kind of individual red or blue marks. The red says it has happened during the past week, and the blue says it happened earlier than the past 1 week. If I click it, I can see more information about this particular event. It was a shop, a grocery shop, and the address where it happened. If I click, I can go deeper to these cases, and I can go and check exactly where it is. So it goes to the address if we have the address for this particular case. We put the address in a database, and you can go and find it in a map, just like this. The heat maps that we have postal code, the one that you saw in the beginning, which shows we have a simple algorithm that gives the coordinates for each of our postal or the zip codes. And based on that, depending how many cases hit to that particular point in a map, the color is defined. I can also here go deeper, even to the zip code area, to see in Helsinki what are the zip code areas that are having the most of the cases. Similar map is the town level heat map. So here we have an algorithm that gives the town, each town or city, one coordinate, and all the cases in that city are put to that particular coordinate, and that gives the color. So here we can see Helsinki is colored red. So these are quite useful because you can really see things in a picture. If you realize that one of the cases is not in our system, you can always submit a missing exposure. You have to give the date, the link if you have linked to the story, and so on. So you have to give as much evidence about the case as you can, so that we can be sure it really has happened. And if you save it here, it will be as a starting point in our inserting system for a new case. And our volunteers will go it through and check if it's a real case. And if so, they will insert it to the database. If not, they will remove it. We also have analysis. The text is unfortunately only in Finnish, but these pictures are in English. So you can see how things are going in long term. So we have information about exposures, infections, and so many other things that are combined together for analysis. Then we also have Twitter. We have certain tweets that we are showing here. People that are part of the team or somehow part of the project, they tweets that are related to altistumiset.fi. And again, you can go and check the current situation if you want to. You can always give feedback from the feedback form. You can see the About page, which tells about who built this, and it tells about Apex that was used here. We also have some additional information the terms of use as I mentioned earlier, the about and the contact us. So this is in short a very brief introduction on altistumiset.fi. Okay, then let's see very quickly a demo about the other application where you can add exposures. So this is the application for inserting the data. Unfortunately, it's only in Finnish, but I will walk you through anyway. So there's two main functionalities: adding a new exposure case and editing existing exposure cases. So if I start with adding a new one, the first thing I should do here is select the city that the exposure has happened. Automatically it finds the hospital district. Then the category, in this case it's been a kindergarten, and a specific place. In my example, it's the place is test. Since we already have test once or maybe many times inserted in the database, it's suggesting me maybe you mean this place, which is also called test, and it's located in Helsinki. And that's actually exactly what I meant. So I'm choosing it from here. So this will reduce the work of our volunteers a lot. So they don't have to find the address for each of the places. If it's been found once and saved in the system, it will be found automatically for them. So this is where you type a more detailed description about what happened. This will be published on the web page. So this is where you type something. The next thing is, where did you get the information? Did you get it? Well, here is media, so it was in the media. In Finland, we are able to ask for more information from the government. So if it's not clear or you need some more information about it, you can ask for more information. If we do that, we check this one and we put here the date when we asked more information. And when we get the reply from the government, we will just click here, we have received the information. So based on the address I type here, I select it here, the geocodes are found automatically from the Oracle service. This is used for the maps I showed you earlier. This is about estimates about exposures and infections. So the first one is about exposures. So how many customers and how many employees and the total number. How many infected customers, employees, and all together. This is the official estimate from the government or from the media or whatever. And then we also have another estimate that is done by our experts. It has also a criteria how reliable is my estimate. So when it's been published, we tell here when the media or whatever was the source of the data, when was it published and when did it happen. One of the things that we have implemented here to help our volunteers so they don't have to work so hard to insert all the rows in the database is a so-called long exposure. Long exposure means that if the same, let's say the same restaurant has had exposures for 5 days in a row, you can just select here long exposure and then start date and end date, and it will automatically create a row in the database, 5 rows in the database for each of these days. So you don't have to go here and insert each day separately. You can just say the same thing happened in many days. Then also, has it been tweeted? And if so, when? A link to the news or wherever it was published. Is it ready to be published on a web page? And do we want to show it also in the Where You Hear page? So there's a lot of things we can change here to either show it or not to show it on the web page. For all this, we have audit information. So who's the user who inserted or deleted or updated the information? When did it happen? And which of these actions was it? Was it inserting, deleting, or editing? Then we also have possibility to drag and drop pictures here. If you have a capture of something, you can drag and drop it here so that all the information is in same place. And then information about the virus, if it was a variant of the virus. So you can tell here if it's known what variant of each of the variants it was. So this was how to insert them, but to edit, you just choose a case. And here you are only, well, depending what kind of privileges you have. If you are a super user, you are allowed to edit any of the cases. If you are a regular user, you are only allowed to edit the cases that you have inserted. So I have selected here a case, and I have just realized that I don't have any information about the number of exposures and the number of infections. And I want to update them now because now I learned it from the news or from the media, wherever. So I just want to update this information, and here we go. So these are the main functionalities in the tool, but there's also other things you can do. So you already noticed that when I was inserting a new case, I had to choose kind of the category. Where did it happen? Was it a kindergarten? Was it a grocery store? What was it? And for that, we have a place where our users can go and add new categories. Every time a category is inserted, we also give it the English name, because this is used if people are using altistumisen.fi in English. Also, the variants. When there's new variants, we add new variants. This is the test environment, so these are not real virus variants. So we can add here a new variant. Then also we can have graphs. So if you have build a graph, let's say in Excel or somewhere, you can drag and drop it here and write a description for your graph, and it will be shown on the web page. And you can also translate those graphs. So when the graph has the finished text I showed, the description and analysis, you can also translate it to English. And when the person has chosen English as a language, you can see the translated version. Unfortunately, now we don't have resources for translating, but we have the functionality for that. We always have, I mentioned that you can only edit those that you have inserted yourself. This is the place where you can go and check if the case you are planning to insert is already in a database. So you can go and check, but you are not allowed to edit. So you can check. If it's not there, you can go and insert it. So what we also have here, I mentioned in the previous demo that people can always ask us to add cases that are not in the database yet. If somebody has inserted those, I will see them here. So this list would have any of those missing cases. The job of our volunteers is to decide if this case is a true case. If so, it can be added to the database, and if not, it will be removed and not added. So we need to be 100% sure that this case is a true case. So we cannot add cases that are just rumors. So it has to be a true case. We also have the feedback I mentioned earlier. So this is where we can see the feedback. So again, this is a demo environment. So what you see here is just our demo data or our test data. So this is where we can go and check the feedback. And based on the feedback, maybe we can just add some new features or improve the features we have, or whatever the feedback to us is. We just want to make it very easy for our users to give feedback. so that we can improve the system. So this is very briefly how this application looks like. I hope these short demos explained to you a little bit how our applications work and the database work. So what do people think about this application or this web page? The first 24 hours, we had 100,000 visits, and we don't have any marketing machine here. So we were only telling about this application in Twitter, and yet we had 100,000 visits. After some publicity, we had 600,000 visits per day. I know to some this sounds very little, but in the country I live, this is a lot because we only have about 5.5 million people. So having this many people visit our webpage in one day is huge. So typically nowadays we have about 270,000 people visiting every day. Some days we have 150, some days 370, but usually it's around 270,000 people. What are we going to do next? Well, who knows? Because we get a lot of feedback from our users. I mean, both the volunteers and the people who are using our webpage. And based on that feedback, we try to improve all the time. We are trying to get more detailed data about infections. We are having some technical difficulties with that, but hopefully we will sort it out. We now have the total exposures, but we are trying to split it into more detailed information. We'd like to have real-time analytics and maybe some predictions based on that. Maybe using machine learning, because now we are having enough data to be able to maybe do machine learning. Who knows? There's a lot of great ideas that hopefully we will be able to do in the near future. If not, then maybe in the future, because when hopefully this COVID-19 situation is over, this data can be used for other pandemics coming in the future. So maybe we could learn from this data, who knows? But what we learned here as conclusion, if you have motivation, anything can be done. You can build an application in 10 days. I'm not saying that this application as you see it today was built in 10 days, but the first version that went to production was built in 10 days. Now we have of course improved it during the year, but the first version that was usable was built in 10 days. So anything can be done if you are motivated for it. And the power of volunteers is enormous because they are so motivated for it. So it doesn't have to be a huge salary to motivate people. It could be some other motivation as well. We learned that Oracle Free Tier can handle 600,000 activities per day, of which almost 300,000 was in 2 hours between 10 and midnight. The reason for this was that our webpage was announced in the local news, well, national news. So the whole Finland was told about the webpage during the news. And after that, a lot of people went to check the webpage. And that's why we had so many people during the 2 hours. And it did handle it. Being honest, people did get some messages like it's a little bit delayed or something, but everything worked and didn't crash. So that was quite amazing. At least I think so. And you can also do a lot without any budget. So we didn't have any money and we managed to build the system. So yes, you don't have to have money to be able to do things if you find free tier solutions like we did. And you can do a lot to help your community if you just choose so. And I think, and based on the feedback we get from the community, this has been very helpful to many people. Like if you're planning to go and visit another town in Helsinki, you can always go and check what's the situation there. Is it okay to travel or should I stay home? So this is kind of very useful information for people in many, many ways, and they do appreciate it. We also learned that a picture, a map, is really worth more than 1,000 words. So these maps are very popular because they give so much information in just a glance. Any questions, happy to answer. You will find me from Twitter as Heli from Finland, and here's my email as well. Thank you very much for listening. I hope this was useful information to you as well. Thank you.
CloudDB, shaping your new normal.